Canadians need to know who these MPs are. Is this Liberal NDP government really going to let sitting members of this House working against the interest of Canadians run in the next election?
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Opposition parties are poised to finally score a victory against the Liberals and get closer to holding the government accountable for the treason occurring within Parliament. And Tom Mulcair thinks we will know the names, whether the Liberals want us to or not.
Let's take a look.
Questions orales.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, last week we learned via the report of the National Security Committee of Parliamentarians that some members had, and I quote, semi-wittingly or wittingly participated in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in our politics. This is an extremely disturbing revelation, which is why we need to know who these members are who are collaborating with hostile foreign countries. Will the Prime Minister, yes or no, reveal the names of these members and the unacceptable actions of which they are accused? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for his question. I'm a little bit surprised because the person sitting next to him, the parliamentary leader, sent me a letter over the weekend suggesting that the HUG Commission should look at these matters, that it was the appropriate forum with the precautions in place. The House is discussing today a motion from our friends at the Bloc Québécois that we will support, and I think it's an important time for Parliament to come together and to support the work of the HUG Commission, and that's exactly what we intend to do.
Okay, so what are they talking about? If you're on our live stream last night, you would have heard that we talked about that the Bloc and the Conservatives, mainly the Bloc, were introducing a motion on Opposition Day. So Opposition Day, opposition parties take turns, being allowed to present motions that get to be voted on in the House. They're non-binding if they actually pass, but it has, it enables them to actually put forward their own motion, so it isn't necessarily just the government the whole time. Now, the motion that the Bloc was putting forward was to essentially take this NSICOP report and look at increasing the scope that Justice Hogue and the public inquiry was actually operating on to include everything that came out of that NSICOP report. Now, LeBlanc is saying, well, I'm confused why they're asking for the names because Andrew Scheer was talking to me over the weekend and we thought everything was great. What they were asking is if the government is going to be providing the commission, the names. That's the difference. Because the Conservatives and the Bloc are basically at a point where they're like, okay, so, well, the Liberals aren't going to release the names to us. Well, they've put in all of these processes so the public inquiry can review intelligence and confidential information and all of that. Why don't they just give it to them? Because that should go into Justice Hogue's report for completeness, you would think. So that's where this question is coming from, and that's where the Conservatives are angling right now.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect their government here and in the Senate to work in their interest. I'm pleased to hear the Minister's answer, but I'd like for him to confirm if officially the Prime Minister will reveal to Commissioner Ugg the names of elected members and perhaps senators who have been involved in working with foreign states. Will he give the names or not? The Honourable Member of Public Safety. Once again, Mr. Speaker, our colleague should consult the person sitting on his left. He knows full well that the HUG Commission has access to exactly that type of information. The HUG Commission has access to all of the documents that the Committee of Parliamentarians consulted. The government has already been in touch. Privy Council officials have been in touch with the HUG Commission to discuss how we can advance on this matter. This is the responsible way to do things, and to rise in the House and to ask for a list of names to be revealed. He knows full well that's irresponsible, and we won't do that.
And you twisted his question again, like you did the first time. He said, are you going to reveal it to the Hogue Commission? That was the question. But no, of course you got to twist it and make it something that it's not.
The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Certain members of this House acted in the best interest of hostile foreign regimes interfering in Canada's democracy. This is a disgusting betrayal of Canadians who elected us to represent them in this place. We as MPs are supposed to serve Canadians, not foreign hostile actors. Why is this Liberal NDP government fighting to protect MPs' names, collaborating in the best interest of hostile foreign regimes and not Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat what I said a moment ago in French. We agree with members of this House that the appropriate forum to look at these matters is the Commission already set up and operating. Set up, I would remind colleagues, with the unanimous support of all parties in this House. The Hague Commission has access to all of the documents of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians looked at. Officials from the Privy Council office have already been in touch with the Hague Commission to determine the best way forward. We think that's a responsible way to proceed, not simply standing up and illegally announcing a list of names like my colleague suggests.
Okay, fact check again. All the Liberals need to do, and only the Liberals can do this, by the way, is approve an order in council. So that comes from the Privy Council, and that would authorize any of the Liberals to disclose the names. It wouldn't be illegal anymore. Like, this is the ridiculousness that the Liberals have stooped to in terms of lying and gaslighting. They're like, oh, well, you know, we've put in all of these processes that actually prevent us from doing this. Yes, but there's actual government processes in place that override your supposed processes that allow you to do what people are asking you to do. Give me a break.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Boo-hoo, get over it was the most disgusting response from this cover-up coalition. This government turned a blind eye to foreign interference to protect their own partisan interests. They refused to hand over documents to that commission, and now they won't release the names of the MPs in this House doing dirty work for foreign hostile regimes. Canadians need to know who these MPs are. Is this Liberal NDP government really going to let sitting members of this House working against the interest of Canadians run in the next election?
Before the Honourable Minister responds, I'm just going to encourage all members, please, not to express their voices unless they are recognized by the chair. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the government will be supporting the motion before the House today brought by the Bloc Québécois, asking the Hague Commission to examine this very matter. We think that's the appropriate way to do it. The Conservatives are pretending that you can stand up and release a list of names. Mr. Speaker, I asked the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP, Mark Flynn, this morning, what would happen if I stood up and announced a list of names like my colleagues are asking me to do, and he said I would be subject to criminal prosecution. So guess what, Mr. Speaker? I'm not going to do that.
Unfortunate. But again, all you need is an order in council, and then ta-da!
Well, and because you're saying it in the House of Commons, you're protected from civil suits.
Right.
So there you go.
So, but, you know, the other thing that LeBlanc said earlier, which is really rich, he's saying, well, you know, the Hague Commission is going to be provided everything that, you know, NCCOP we've already provided to them. Yeah, there's just a tiny problem with that, LeBlanc. NCCOP has actually voiced displeasure and irritation, the fact that they've been asking for documents and the Trudeau government has not been providing them or has been providing them heavily redacted. And the Hague Commission has been saying the exact same thing. So where's this transparency? The most transparent government of all time.
Which makes you wonder, what are they hiding?
Right. Both with NCCOP, the committee they created, and the public inquiry, where they were promised that Justice Hogue will have any document she wanted.
You know, this isn't some far-right conspiracy, folks. This is happening right in front of us. How many people are going to turn a blind eye to this?
The best thing about today is that the Liberals had no choice but to actually accept this motion, because you heard LeBlanc say that they're going to be supporting it. And even though this is non-binding, they're going to have to actually accept it and do something with it. Why? Because if they don't, you're going to have all three opposition parties, including the NDP, screaming to high heaven of a cover-up on foreign interference by the Liberal government. Anyhow, so that's what was going on in question period. And it wasn't the only forum for discussion about this, as we know. So they actually brought Tom Mulcair back on CTV, and he had a really interesting theory. Let's take a look at that.
It was an interesting week. No agreement to release the names. What are your thoughts on that?
This foreign interference file goes back more than 18 months now, because it has to be looked at in the context of what we went through initially with the allegations of foreign government interference in Canadian elections. Roger, that started in November 2022, Bali, Indonesia, a G20 meeting. We have images of Justin Trudeau finger wagging under the nose of the president of China. And the journalists who were there wanted to know what all that was about. And they were told by Trudeau's people, he was giving him what for? Because the Chinese government had been interfering in our elections. When he got back to Canada, he wouldn't answer. He wouldn't give anything to the Canadian public. He wasn't forthcoming. And when you're not transparent on something as crucial and fundamental as our democracy and our institutions, the public is not going to forget this overnight. So the government stalled. They gave it to David Johnston, and we know what happened. Mm-hmm. We've now got a commission of inquiry under Madam Justice Hogue, and I start with that. Because, Roger, she's saying she's not being given all of the information that she's entitled to be able to file her report. It's being held back by Trudeau and the people around him in the Prime Minister's office. Fast forward, what did we learn this week? David McGuinty, a highly respected senior Liberal MP, signs a report with other members of that nonpartisan committee and says, look, we were not given access to about 1,000 documents that we needed to see. And beyond that, we're not able to do our work. And we do know, and this is what they have in their report, that there are Canadian members of our parliament, whether they be on the House of Commons side as elected officials or on the Senate side as appointed officials, who have been helping foreign governments and giving them information they're not entitled to. That's a bombshell. And then the issue becomes, well, do we release the names now? And the government's arguments, they've got a litany of arguments. One is, well, it's not exactly 1,000 documents. Well, how many is it, 980? Oh, well, it's illegal to make those names public. No, it's not. An order in council signed by cabinet could make them public. Is it a good idea to make them public? I think that it's not a good idea to make them public because we don't have enough solid information. This hasn't been tested by law enforcement. It hasn't of course, been tested in court, therefore.
So this is where we completely disagree with Tom Mulcair. I'm sorry. You are a elected official. You carry parliamentary privilege. You are held to a higher standard. And as Canadians that pay your salary, that pay your expenses, that pay your pensions, if you have a possibility of collaborating with a foreign state, I want to know about it. Call it a performance review.
I say name them all and let God sort it out.
Well, name them all and let Canadians sort it out. Because here's the thing. If you weren't doing really shady behavior, you probably wouldn't have ended up in this NSICOP committee. You probably wouldn't have had the attention of CSIS. Just saying. Like, there's the parliamentarians that the report says unwittingly have helped. Well, it's hard to blame them because they didn't even know they were helping them. So that's one aspect. The other one is the problematic one, which is where it crosses over into treason, is that they did know.
Well, and I'm usually all for due process, but this time, this is different. This is our democracy, and if they take that away, what do we have left?
Well, and again, how often do you hear of people in the police force, in people in the military, people in normal corporations get suspended after there's allegations, and then they conduct the investigation? This isn't new. This technically is due process. They should be suspended.
Well, there's such a huge risk this time. What if this doesn't get resolved by the time we go to election? Canadians deserve to know whose names are on that list.
Well, and again, what if these people are sitting members of cabinet with access to sensitive information and intelligence that they could potentially pass on to a foreign state? Release the names.
So you can't just start putting out lists. You're into McCarthyism at that point. So on that part of it, the government's right. But it's after 18 months of stalling that the average Canadian is just saying, I get the sense that there's more going on here than meets the eye, and the government is not giving me the information I'm entitled to. And this is about the Canadian Parliament. And again, it's not the type of thing that governments know, Roger, that it takes about 6 weeks for almost anything to be forgotten by the public. That's an actual number, 6 weeks. Here, it's not going away. Why? Because it's that important to people who care about our country. And the Liberals don't seem to understand that. They're still stonewalling, and the average member of the public is just saying, there's more going on here. They're not being honest with us, and we have a right to know. And they do have a right to know.
Are we going to find out, do you think?
I think we will. I mean, the danger here is it'll be an uncontrolled leak. More has to come, and the first thing that Trudeau has to do, Roger, is give the information to Madam Justice Hogue. I have a feeling she's going to come out publicly on this very soon if she doesn't get the information she's entitled to.
So there you go. What Mulcair thinks is going to happen is that someone from the NSICOP committee is going to say, screw it. Mail drop.
Just like I said.
And it's going to come out in the Globe and Mail, or it's going to come out in Global News. And I hope it does. I really, really do. Like, I hope one of them has the stones to be a patriot and to just say, oopsie. Because Canadians need to know. These people need to be held to account. And Canadians are sick and tired of there being no accountability here. Like, do you think Canadians are going to feel sorry for somebody, getting lambasted in the media because they collaborated with a foreign state? No. No. We elect these people.
And they take an oath to us, Canadians.
Right. And these people have violated that oath.
They deserve to be called out.
They sure do. And you know what? If somehow they're innocent, then somehow they're innocent. But it should send a message to the rest of the parliamentarians. You don't screw with the oath that you've taken, and you better take it seriously, because Canadians have woken up and we are watching.